The snowstorm that night was the kind that could silence a whole town. Wind howled across the tracks, flinging icy flakes against the windows of the Lone Creek train station. The lamps flickered, barely holding their glow against the freezing air. Most travelers had already found warmth somewhere else, but one woman remained. Her name was Clara Winslow, a nurse who'd just finished years of service at a field hospital outside Denver. She had no family left, no home waiting. Her next assignment had been canceled at the last minute, leaving her stranded in the middle of nowhere with one small suitcase and a coat that wasn't nearly thick enough. Clara shivered on the wooden bench, hugging her bag to her chest, her breath clouding the air. She told herself she'd wait until the morning train came through, but deep down, she feared she wouldn't last the night. That was when the station doors blew open, and a rush of snow followed a tall man inside. He wore a long brown duster, a Stetson hat dusted white, and boots heavy with frost. His sharp blue eyes scanned the empty station until they landed on her. "Miss," he said, his voice warm and steady, "you'll freeze to death sitting there." Clara tried to stand but stumbled. "I'm fine," she managed, though her lips trembled. He shook his head. "No, you ain't. Name's Wyatt Cole. My ranch is just 2 miles from here. You can get warm there until the storm passes." Wyatt Cole wasn't just any cowboy. He was the richest man in the county, owner of the Silver Creek Ranch, known for miles around for its purebred horses and acres of fertile land. But to Clara, he was just a stranger offering help when the world had forgotten her. She hesitated. "I don't want to be a burden," he smiled gently. "You won't be. Now come on before the wind takes you." The snow reached her knees by the time they made it to his truck. Wyatt helped her inside, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. The warmth of the engine and the smell of leather and pine filled her lungs, and she finally stopped shivering. When they reached the ranch, Clara was stunned. The sprawling log house glowed against the white hills, smoke curling from the chimney. Wyatt led her inside, where the fire crackled in a stone hearth. "Sit here," he said, pulling up a chair near the fire. "I'll get you something hot to drink." He returned with a steaming mug of cocoa. She cupped it in both hands, feeling the life return to her fingers. "You saved my life," she said softly. "Maybe," he said with a half smile. "But I think I just found a reason not to be alone tonight." The hours passed with conversation that came easy, like they'd known each other for years. Clara told him about her work as a nurse, how she'd held the hands of dying men and delivered babies in tiny mountain clinics. Wyatt listened closely, his rough hands folded in his lap. He told her about the ranch, how he'd inherited it young after his parents' accident, how he built it into something greater, but lost his fiancée to the city lights before they could marry. Both had known loss. Both had grown used to loneliness. By the time the fire burned low, Clara's eyelids grew heavy. Wyatt rose and offered her his guest room. "Sleep as long as you need," he said. "You're safe here." When morning came, the storm had passed. Clara looked out the window to see sunlight glinting off the snow-covered fields. Horses pawed the ground near the barn, and men shouted cheerfully as they worked. She found Wyatt in the kitchen, cooking eggs and bacon. "You didn't have to do this," she said. He grinned. "You think I'd let a nurse go hungry under my roof? Not a chance." Over breakfast, he asked her what she planned to do next. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "The hospital that hired me closed down. I suppose I'll go where I'm needed." Wyatt thought for a moment. "I reckon I need someone like you here. My men work hard, but accidents happen. And, well, I wouldn't mind the company either." Clara smiled. "Are you offering me a job?" He nodded. "And maybe a place to start again." Weeks passed. Clara stayed on at the ranch, tending to cuts and fevers, helping the workers through long winter days. She laughed more than she had in years. Wyatt, who'd once been all business, found himself lingering by the barn just to hear her humming while she worked. She brought light into every corner of his quiet house. Sometimes after dinner, they'd walk together along the snow-dusted fence line. One evening she asked, "Why did you help me that night, Wyatt?" "You didn't even know me." He shrugged, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Guess I saw someone who looked as lost as I used to feel." Her heart softened. "You're not lost anymore." He turned to her, his voice low. "Not since you walked into my life." Spring came, melting the snow and flooding the fields with wildflowers. The ranch buzzed with new life. Foals were born, calves wandered the meadows, and Clara seemed to fit perfectly into it all. But one morning, a letter arrived. It was from the city hospital in Cheyenne, offering Clara a senior nurse position. Her dream job. She read it twice, her chest tightening. Wyatt found her by the porch, letter trembling in her hands. "You got news?" he asked. It's an offer," she said. "A big one." "They need me there." He swallowed hard. "Then you should go." "Don't let me stand in your way." She looked at him, tears glistening. "But I don't want to leave what I've found here." He took off his hat, running a hand through his hair. "Clara, I ain't gonna beg you to stay, but I'll tell you this. The ranch won't be the same without you." That night she couldn't sleep. She looked out at the moonlit fields, remembering the storm that had brought her here. She thought about the laughter, the warmth, the man who had saved her life and unknowingly healed her heart. By dawn, she'd made her choice. When Wyatt came downstairs, he found her in the kitchen making coffee. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "I did," she said softly. "But I woke up knowing what I wanted." He looked at her, his heart pounding. "And what's that?" "You," she said simply. "This place, this life." For a long moment he just stared, as if afraid she'd vanish with the sunrise. Then he crossed the room and pulled her close, his hand brushing a tear from her cheek. "You sure?" he whispered. "I've never been more sure," she replied. He kissed her then, slow and tender, the kind of kiss that feels like coming home. They were married that summer under a great oak tree by the creek. The whole town gathered to watch. Clara wore a simple white dress, her hair crowned with wildflowers. Wyatt couldn't take his eyes off her as he said his vows. In time, their story spread far beyond Lone Creek. People called it the love that beat the blizzard, the tale of a freezing nurse and the cowboy millionaire who found her when no one else cared. But for Wyatt and Clara, it was never about fame. It was about the night two lonely souls crossed paths in the snow and built something unshakable from kindness, courage, and love. And every winter, when the first snow began to fall, Wyatt would wrap his arm around Clara and whisper with a grin, "Remember that storm? Guess I should thank it for bringing you to me." And she'd smile, eyes bright with memory. "It didn't just bring me to you, Wyatt. It brought me home."